Welcome back, Great Minds. Let us deep dive to our topic today here on Great Minds Podcast. We're going to be tackling a subject that affects every single one of us, gender stereotypes. And we're going deep, using Trainer G's speech from Go Beyond the Surface as our guide.
It's interesting. We often think of stereotypes as these kind of harmless oversimplifications, but the truth is they have a real impact on our lives, starting from a very young age.
So let's start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Trainer G really emphasizes that gender expectations are learned. It's not like we're born knowing that pink is for girls and blue is for boys.
Exactly. It's all about the messages we receive growing up from our families, our communities, even the toys we're given.
Like those classic toy aisles, dolls and tea sets on one side, trucks and action figures on the other.
Yeah, it's subtle, but it starts shaping our understanding of appropriate behavior for boys and girls incredibly early on.
And it's not just about toys, right? It's about the stories we're told.
Yeah.
The roles we see people playing around us.
Absolutely. And here's where media comes in. Think about the movies and TV shows you watched as a kid. How often did you see female characters as the damsel in distress waiting for a male hero to rescue them? Or men portrayed as stoic and unemotional, never allowed to show vulnerability?
Right, like almost emotionless.
Yeah, these repeated narratives, even in seemingly harmless entertainment, reinforce these narrow definitions of what it means to be a man or a woman.
It's almost like we're being programmed without even realizing it. And it's not just limited to childhood, is it? These stereotypes have real consequences in the adult world, particularly in our careers.
Oh, absolutely. Trainer G points to some really compelling research here. Studies have shown that even when men and women have identical qualifications, they're often judged differently for the same job. It's like there's this unconscious bias that creeps in, leading to disparities in hiring, promotions, even salaries.
So it's not just about individual perceptions.
Yeah.
It's about systemic barriers that are built on these ingrained stereotypes.
Yeah, precisely. And this is where Trainer G's point about our formative years becomes really important. If you grow up constantly being told, either directly or indirectly, that certain fields are not for you because of your gender, it's bound to affect your aspirations and your confidence to pursue certain paths.
It's like those subtle cues you mentioned earlier, but on a much larger scale. Have you ever felt steered towards or away from certain subjects or careers based on your gender? Great minds. It's something worth reflecting on because those early experiences can have a long-lasting impact on our choices and opportunities.
It's true. And these expectations don't just influence our external choices. They also shape how we see ourselves, how we internalize these societal messages.
What do you mean by internalized expectations? Can you break that down for us?
It's about how these external pressures start to become part of our own internal belief systems. For example, if a young boy is constantly told that boys don't cry, he might start suppressing his emotions, even when it's healthy and natural to express them.
So it's not just about conforming to external expectations. It's about actually believing those expectations are true for ourselves. That's heavy stuff.
It is, and it can lead to a lot of internal conflict. Imagine a young woman who is naturally assertive and ambitious, but has been raised with the message that girls should be nice and agreeable. She might find herself struggling to reconcile her own personality with the expectations placed upon her.
That makes a lot of sense. So we've got these external pressures from society and then these internal pressures that we start to place on ourselves.
Exactly. And those two forces combined can have a profound impact on our mental and emotional well-being. The constant pressure to conform can lead to stress, anxiety, even depression.
It's like we're trapped in this invisible cage of expectations.
Yeah.
And it's affecting us on so many levels.
That's a powerful image. And it highlights the importance of recognizing these patterns, understanding their impact, and taking steps to break free.
This is already a lot to take in. But you mentioned earlier that this isn't just a local issue, right?
Right. Trainer G emphasizes that gender stereotypes are a global phenomenon. They may manifest differently across cultures, but the underlying pattern of imposing rigid expectations based on gender is remarkably widespread.
So how do different cultures approach this challenge? Is there a universal solution?
That's a great question. Trainer G highlights that there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Yeah.
Some cultures are actively trying to dismantle these traditional expectations through policies that promote gender equality, education that challenges stereotypes, even legal reforms that address discrimination.
It's encouraging to see that there are places where people are consciously working towards a more equitable world.
It is. But there are also cultures where traditional gender roles remain very rigid, making it much harder for individuals to break free from those expectations.
It sounds like a complex and multifaceted issue with no easy answers, but at least we're starting to have these conversations globally, right?
Absolutely. And that's a crucial first step. Bringing awareness to these deeply ingrained patterns is essential for creating lasting change.
Speaking of change, what are some of the solutions Trainer G proposes for challenging these stereotypes? What can we actually do to make a difference?
Well, he outlines a multifaceted approach, emphasizing the importance of education representation and policy changes. It's about challenging our own biases, advocating for change in our communities, and supporting policies that promote equality.
So it's a combination of individual actions and systemic changes.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that this is not just an individual problem, but a societal one.
It's a lot to take in, but it's also empowering to know that we can all be part of the solution.
Absolutely. And remember, great minds, even small actions, can contribute to a larger shift. Each time we challenge a stereotype, speak up against bias, or support initiatives that promote gender equality, we're taking a step towards a more just and equitable world.
It's a reminder that we all have a role to play in creating the kind of world we want to live in.
And that's a powerful message to carry with us as we continue this conversation.
This has been a truly insightful exploration of gender stereotypes so far. And for those great minds wanting to improve their English speaking skills and break free from an intermediate plateau, I encourage you to check out Go Beyond the Surface Training by Trainer G. It's an intensive speaking training curated by him to help English enthusiasts like you. But for now, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll delve even deeper into the complexities of this issue and explore some concrete actions we can all take to challenge gender stereotypes in our daily lives. Stay tuned.
Hi, great minds. Let's dive into today's question. How do societal expectations influence our choices and behavior? Societal expectations often shape the way we act, think, and make decisions. They can guide us toward accepted norms, like dressing appropriately for an event or pursuing stable careers. However, these expectations may also pressure us to conform, sometimes at the expense of personal desires or individuality. Balancing societal norms with personal values helps us navigate these influences while staying true to ourselves. Thank you for reflecting and reading with me. Read this aloud to enhance your fluency and think about how external expectations shape your life. How about you, G-Minds? When have you felt influenced by societal norms, and how did you respond? You can put your answer in the comment section. See you in our next one.
So one of the key takeaways from Trainer G's speech, is that while gender stereotypes are deeply ingrained in our societies, they're not inevitable. We can challenge them, we can break free from them, and we can create a world where everyone is empowered to be their authentic selves.
Yeah, that's a powerful message. And I think it's important to emphasize that change doesn't have to be this grand sweeping revolution. It can start with small, everyday actions. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's about being mindful of the language we use, the assumptions we make, and the way we treat people. For example, instead of automatically assuming that a doctor is male or a nurse is female, let's use gender-neutral language.
Well,
instead of complimenting a little girl on her dress, let's praise her intelligence or her creativity.
I like that. It's about those subtle shifts in our thinking and behavior that can have a ripple effect.
Precisely. And it's also about challenging those stereotypes when we see them playing out in the real world. If you hear someone making a sexist joke, don't just laugh along. Speak up, even if it's uncomfortable. If you notice that a meeting is dominated by men, make an effort to amplify the voices of women in the room.
Those are great examples. It's about being an active participant in creating a more equitable world.
Exactly. And here's another thought. Let's be more conscious of the media we consume and the messages it's sending. Are women always portrayed as the love interest or the sidekick? Are men always the heroes or the villains? Let's support media that challenges these stereotypes and showcases a wider range of human experiences.
That's a really important point. We often underestimate the influence media has on our perceptions and beliefs.
It's true. And while there's certainly been progress in recent years, there's still a long way to go. We need to keep pushing for more diverse representation in films, television, books, all forms of media.
Because seeing ourselves reflected in the stories we consume can be incredibly powerful, especially for young people who are still forming their identities.
Absolutely. And it's not just about representation for the sake of representation. It's about showcasing a wider range of roles and experiences, breaking free from those narrow, stereotypical portrayals that limit our understanding of what's possible.
So we've talked about challenging stereotypes in our language, our actions, and the media we consume. What about those systemic barriers you mentioned earlier? How do we address those?
That's where policy changes come in. Trainer G is a big advocate for policies that promote gender equality in the workplace, in education, in all aspects of society.
Can you give us some specific examples?
Sure. Think about things like paid parental leave, affordable childcare, flexible work arrangements. These policies not only benefit women, but also create a more equitable and supportive environment for all genders.
Those are great examples. It's about creating a system that recognizes the diverse needs of individuals and families,
Yeah.
not just those who fit into traditional gender roles.
Exactly. And we also need to address the issue of pay equity. The fact that women on average still earn less than men for doing the same work is simply unacceptable.
I couldn't agree more. Closing the gender pay gap is essential for achieving true economic equality.
And it's not just about fairness, it's also about economic growth. When women are empowered to participate fully in the workforce, everyone benefits.
So it's a win-win situation.
Yeah.
More equality, more economic prosperity.
Precisely. And it's not just about economic benefits. When we create a more equitable society, we also create a more just and compassionate one. We break down those harmful stereotypes that limit people's potential, and we foster a sense of belonging and inclusion for everyone.
That's a beautiful vision. And it's inspiring to think that we can all contribute to making that vision a reality.
We can, great minds. It starts with understanding the issue, challenging our own biases, and taking action in our everyday lives.
And it's about remembering that this is not just a women's issue. It's a human issue. It affects everyone, regardless of gender.
Well said. We all have a stake in creating a world where everyone is valued, respected, and empowered to be their authentic selves.
I think this conversation has really highlighted the fact that challenging gender stereotypes is not just about achieving equality for women. It's about creating a better world for everyone.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing the interconnectedness of our experiences and understanding that when one group is marginalized, we all suffer.
I love that perspective. It's about moving beyond that binary thinking and embracing the full spectrum of human diversity.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing that gender is not just about biology. It's also about culture, identity, and expression.
It's about allowing individuals the freedom to define themselves on their own terms without being limited by those rigid, outdated stereotypes.
And it's about creating a society where everyone feels safe, supported, and empowered to live their truth.
That's a world I want to live in. And I believe it's a world we can create together, one step at a time.
I agree. It starts with each of us, great minds. It starts with challenging our own biases, speaking up against injustice, and advocating for change.
It's about being allies,
Yeah.
about listening to and learning from each other, and about working together to build a more equitable and just world.
And it's about remembering that change doesn't happen overnight. It's a journey, a process. And there will be setbacks along the way.
But we can't let those setbacks discourage us. We have to keep pushing forward, keep raising our voices, and keep believing in the power of collective action.
Because ultimately, the fight for gender equality is a fight for human dignity, for justice, and for a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
That's a powerful message, and I think it's a fitting note to end on. Expert speaker, that's a powerful message, and I think it's a fitting note to end on. But before we wrap up, I wanted to pose one final question for us to consider.
Okay, I'm listening.
We've talked about the impact of stereotypes, on individuals and society as a whole. But what about the flip side? What do we gain by breaking free from these limiting beliefs? What would a world without gender stereotypes look like? What kind of possibilities could it unlock for all of us?
That's a fantastic question to consider, great minds. Imagine a world where individuals are free to pursue their passions and talents without being constrained by expectations based on their gender. A world where girls are encouraged to be astronauts and boys are encouraged to be nurses, where anyone can be a stay-at-home parent regardless of gender, and where leadership positions reflect the true diversity of our society.
Yeah, it's almost like we're talking about unleashing this untapped potential that's been held back for far too long.
Exactly. Think about all the brilliant minds that might have been stifled because they didn't fit the mold, because they were told either explicitly or implicitly that certain things were not for them because of their gender.
It's a loss not only for those individuals, but for society as a whole.
Precisely. We need everyone's contributions to solve the complex challenges we face, whether it's climate change, poverty, or global health crises. We need all hands on deck. And that means creating a world where everyone feels empowered to contribute their unique skills and perspectives.
I love that idea of untapped potential. It's like we're holding ourselves back as a society by clinging to these outdated beliefs.
And it's not just about societal progress, it's also about individual well-being. When we break free from those rigid gender roles, we allow ourselves to be more fully human, to embrace the full range of our emotions and expressions.
So it's not just about external freedom, it's about internal freedom as well.
Absolutely. It's about giving ourselves permission to be who we truly are without the weight of those societal expectations holding us down.
I think that's a beautiful message to leave our listeners with. It's about embracing our individuality, celebrating our differences, and recognizing that true strength comes from authenticity.
And it's about working together to create a world where everyone feels seen, valued, and respected, regardless of their gender.
Well said. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into gender stereotypes here on Great Minds Podcast. We hope you found it insightful and empowering.
And remember, great minds, if you're looking to improve your English speaking skills and push past that intermediate plateau, Trainer G's Go Beyond the Surface training is an excellent resource. It's designed to help you express yourself confidently and authentically.
Great reminder. Be sure to tune in again to Great Minds Podcast for more fascinating explorations. Until next time, keep those great minds engaged.